The UFC just made some major fight announcements, and I'm going to give my reaction to them in today's video. At first, I thought they were going to be bigger. Of course, we've been waiting for Ilia Topuria's matchup in the lightweight division, and of course, we are also waiting for Tom Aspinall versus John Jones to be announced finally. We didn't get either of them, but we did get some big matchups. Iangarry is stepping in and facing Carlos Prates. Jeff Neal pulled out of his fight at UFC 314, and Iangarry will now fight Carlos Prates in a 5-round main event of Kansas City. This means that I believe Jamal Hill was pulled out of that fight against Khalil Roundtree with some kind of injury. I'm not sure on the reasoning for this being the new main event, but I believe it's Hill being injured and pulling out of the fight with Khalil Roundtree. We've also got Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili 2 for the Bantamweight World Championship as the main event of UFC 316. I'll give my opinion on that in a second in this video, because I would have much rather seen a different matchup that could have happened instead of this, that the UFC just seemed to not be interested in whatsoever. But I feel like MMA fans should be interested in the alternative matchup that I would have gone for. We've also got, you know, Pena versus Harrison, and Volkov versus Almeida's in the works. So when Dana White told Alexander Volkov, after he got robbed by Cyril Gane, that they were going to make it right by him, and they were going to have something nice to say that, Volkov got robbed, we're going to do something nice for Volkov, they've given him Jailton Almeida as the nice thing to do right by him after he got robbed by Cyril Gane. He better have at least got his win bonus paid to him. That better have been at least the nice thing that got done to Volkov in terms of doing right by him. But we're going to move back to this matchup. Iangarry, Carlos Prates. There were people joking around that these fight announcements were being made on the 1st of April. And I don't think the UFC would partake in such jokes on the 1st of April for April Fools. A lot of people thought that when Tony Ferguson on the 1st of April tripped over a wire and tore his ACL, pulling him out of his fight with Khabib Nurmagomedov on the 1st of April, they thought that was some kind of joke. But no, they don't do that. These are the real fights. Iangarry stepped up to face Carlos Prates. Now, I've slandered Iangarry a lot, and I made a tweet about this just a second ago. Although Iangarry is annoying to listen to, and you do want to rip your ears off every single time he opens his mouth and talks about anything, you have to respect Iangarry. You have to respect Iangarry. His schedule is insane. MVP, Shavkat Rakhmonov on short notice, and now Carlos Prates on short notice within a year. No matter what you think about Iangarry and his situation and the way he chooses to live his life and the way he speaks and talks in general and his personality, whatever you want to say about any of that, there aren't fighters in the UFC anymore who do this type of shit. This is a very rare thing, especially for a higher ranked guy in Iangarry. That's something that needs to be said. We see someone unranked with nothing really to lose. You know, they're never quite good enough to be a top-level fighter. They get a ton of respect for stepping up and saving fights. Bobby Green is an example of this. He takes on all comers. He'll take on anyone on short notice. Yeah, but he doesn't have a number 7 ranking to lose. You know what I mean? He's not even ranked. So it is impressive, and you should respect Bobby Green for being that guy. But Iangarry has a ton to lose here. Carlos Prates, Iangarry. Reasonably good notice. You know, he's got a few weeks now. He's probably in shape anyway, I'd imagine. I don't think he's just been sitting out doing nothing during this entire time. He knows there's a welterweight title fight coming up between JDM and Bilal in May. I'm sure he's been ready, and I know he was talking about wanting to be on the Miami card at UFC 314 anyway, but of course he wants enough time to prepare himself for the weight cut and trim off that last bit of weight to make it a more approachable weight cut. I think Prates is going to win, but I don't know. I'm leaning Prates. From what I've seen in Iangarry's game, he's very good, but I can see Prates catching him and putting him away by TKO. I for some reason, I see Ian Garry giving him some kind of problem. Grappling, Ian Garry's very well-rounded. He doesn't seem to be this best in the division guy at any one individual thing. He's not the best striker in the division. He's not the best grappler in the division. He's not the toughest guy in the division, the fastest, the most powerful. He doesn't seem to have any individual thing that makes him better than everyone else. But he's well-rounded, and that's why he was given the win over MVP. He's not a better striker than MVP. We saw that in that fight. He didn't have anything for MVP on the feet. But the guy knows how to win fights. Nearly choked out Shavkat Rakhmonov in round 5. On very short notice when he took that fight. Nearly choked out MVP in round 1. I understand I'm saying the word nearly quite a bit here. But that's Shavkat Rakhmonov. And MVP's very good as well. Do I think he's going to be able to grapple with Carlos Prates? I don't know. It's an unanswered question in Carlos Prates' game. A really unanswered question is, what's going to happen when someone tries to wet blanket him? If this was Sean Brady stepping up to fight Prates on short notice, I would probably pick Sean Brady after what we just saw him do against Leon Edwards. This is tricky. On full camp, maybe I would be more confident in the idea of picking Ian Garry to win this fight. I am going to go with Carlos Prates. It is a different style matchup for Carlos Prates because he was preparing for Jeff Neal, and now he's got a rangy guy in front of him, a tall, rangy guy that's his frame, not his reach. Ian Garry's reach is particularly short for his height, but he's a very high, tall, framed guy for the division. So this is going to be interesting to see Carlos Prates take on. I'm going to go with Prates. I've seen Ian Garry hit too much in his career. The way I will justify that is they both came up as strikers, and Prates fought a lot of guys unranked and made very easy work of them. Now, some guys have been landing on him. Trevin Giles actually looked like he was about to fraud check Carlos Prates in moments. Not in the way that he was dominating him, but he was actually getting the better of Prates in the striking with straight punches. So there might be a window there for Ian Garry. But if you look at their come up, I remember Ian Garry had a razor close fight with Darian Weeks, but he was holding Ian Garry up against the cage in moments. But even on the feet, Ian Garry couldn't quite find his range. Even against Gabriel Green, I believe his name was, he kind of went scrappy with Ian Garry in moments. You know, he got stung on the chin early doors by Jordan Williams, I believe it was. And then he got a TKO later on. I know I'm going back in time to find these examples of weakness against Ian Garry. He didn't beat Jeff Neal by too big of margins. I thought that was a very close fight, but he got held against a cage. The Shavkat fight was, I think it was very unimpressive from both. To be honest with you, I thought it was embarrassing performance from both. Even though that, you know, the narrative is, oh, how close it was, and didn't Ian Garry look good? I think they both looked really bad in that fight. And they both had a bit of an off performance. And we know now Shavkat was injured in that fight, and Ian Garry, of course, took it on very short notice. But Prates has made easy work of everyone. There has to be something said about that. Easy work of everyone. He's looked in full control of every fight of his career, other than against Trevin Giles, where he got stung up pretty badly. He got caught by a couple punches. This is how I'm critiquing Prates' game. You know? Oh, I remember that one time when Giles landed a couple of 1-2s on him before getting slept. He neutralized and destroyed Li Jingliang. Whereas I think Ian Garry would take Li Jingliang to a 29-28 decision. You know, you're looking at a guy who got dropped by Song Kanan earlier in his career. And that wasn't too long ago either. So I'm leaning towards Carlos Prates. But 5 rounds does make this interesting. And I said this on a Full Violence post not that long ago. It was a post about Carlos Prates. Isn't he so cool how many cigarettes he smokes a day and how much alcohol he drinks? And he was talking about the fact that, you know, on a off day, I would maybe smoke 15 cigarettes. And if I'm stressed, I'll go through a pack. If I'm partying, I'll go through multiple packs of cigarettes a day. And it was like a promotional tool. And I put a comment on there saying, this is fun now. It's funny, even though it's just degenerate. It's funny now to talk about and use to promote Carlos Prates. But I was saying I can so see that being a clip that people go back to whenever we see him in rounds 4 and 5. wheezing for air, completely gassed out in a fight. So I think Prates is going to KO Iangarry early in the first 2 rounds. I think he will catch him on the chin. Iangarry is there to be hit. Although he is quite elusive, I think Prates will find the chin, and I think he will put him away. But man, if he doesn't, he's probably cooked. So this is a very intriguing matchup. I'm leaning towards Carlos Prates. But man, this is a more dangerous matchup than people think. This isn't just, Prates in 1 or 2 rounds against Jeff Neal. Even though Jeff Neal was, we saw in their fight against him and Iangarry, they're quite similar in skill level. I think style-wise, that was a much more approachable fight for Carlos Prates, especially in a 3-rounder. This does change it up a bit. But I'm going to lean towards Prates regardless. Good matchup. Glad it's been made. Moving on to another fight that got announced, which was... Not this first. Fucking hell. Merab Dvalishvili versus Sean O'Malley 2. Now this is... I knew this was going to happen. We all knew this was going to happen. We've heard rumors. We had so many people talking about this being the fight to make next. I made a whole video on it being the fight that they said they were going to make next not that long ago. If Dana White is saying they're going to make a fight next and it isn't John Jones versus Tom Aspinall, it's probably going to be made next. Okay? That's the only time Dana White's going to lie about something like that. Otherwise, he's going to say, I don't know. Don't ask me questions, guys. If he even gives a hint at a press conference, which he did for O'Malley versus Merab, then it's going to happen. You know how he wants O'Malley to be back in the title picture. I wanted Merab versus Pantoja, man. I wanted Merab versus Pantoja. That's what I wanted. I think it's such an underrated matchup. I'm going to go to the rankings to pick some other fights that should be on UFC 316 with the fights that have been announced so far. But I'm looking at the flyweight division and I mean, pound for pound, I think Pantoja should be above Belal. After Leon Edwards lost to Sean Brady, I think Bilal's big win over him that keeps him at that point in pound for pound loses stock. If a loss to Sean Brady is enough to remove Leon Edwards from the pound for pound rankings, period, then it should diminish Bilal's value that is putting him in the pound for pound for beating Leon Edwards. Pantoja's in a very tough division, and he's beaten nearly all of them. He's beaten Manel Cap. He's beaten Royval twice. These are huge wins. Look at the division. He's beaten Moreno 3 times. As he beat Albazi, he beat Cara France on The Ultimate Fighter. He has huge wins. He's beaten Alex Perez. You know? He has these huge wins in the division. Asakura, I mean, in the rankings, I know Asakura probably shouldn't be ranked, but he is a high-level regional guy. So I get why they put him there, and he's a huge star. But Pantoja's the guy. You know, he's only lost to Figueiredo at flyweight in recent history. So, I don't know. I feel like Pantoja should be higher pound for pound. And I think that would make it a number 4 pound for pound Merab Dvalishvili versus what should be a number 7 or 6 pound for pound. Maybe 7. I know Ankalaev just beat Pereira. Pereira's still a huge name. They're going to run that rematch. Ankalaev had a great resume before that as well. He put in a lot of work before he got the title shot. Same with Belal, but the names weren't quite as standout-ish. So I think it should be number 7 pound for pound Pantoja versus number 4 pound for pound Merab. But we're not getting that. And because we're not getting that, there's no other option for the UFC to make a bantamweight title fight between. The only other option is Peter Yan. Sandhagen's got a fight with Figueiredo, and you couldn't give Merab Sandhagen. Sandhagen's literally coming off a loss to Umar Nurmagomedov. You can't give him Figueiredo because Figueiredo's coming off a loss to Peter Yan. There's no one else there that's in anywhere near the realm of earning a title shot other than O'Malley and Yan. What I would have done is I would have said, hey Merab, you just beat Umar Nurmagomedov in January at UFC 311. You don't need to be so active. Let's run O'Malley versus Yan 2, 5 rounds, co-main event of a pay-per-view with a better main event than fucking Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison, which would have been the alternative, I guess. But then I would also have Jones versus Aspinall and Ilia Topuria versus Makhachev. So we're living in fairyland. So we're not going to get any of those fun matchups. But I would do Pantoja Merab as the main event with O'Malley Yan 2 as the co-main event. And that way, if anything happens in the title fight between Merab and Pantoja, if Pantoja pulls out, you just give O'Malley the shot then, and then him stepping up to take it seems a bit more appropriate. You know what I mean? It seems a bit more acceptable in that way. But yeah, Merab wants to stay active, and you know what? I understand this for Merab. This was the competitive fight that he had. Umar was very competitive as well, but O'Malley was a champion before, and he defended against Vera. Bullshit defense, I know, but they had history, and he schooled him. I get it, and he did sleep Aljo. But then, I mean, someone would have said this in the comments. Where was this treatment for Aljamain Sterling? You know? Aljo lost. I know he got slept, but he was a defending champ. He was on his way to bantamweight GOAT status. If he would have beat O'Malley, there would have been real conversations we'd need to have had. And there was no good treatment for him getting a rematch. So it is star power driving this. Let's face it, there's star power driving this decision. They want O'Malley as champ. And again, as I said, for Merab, I understand it though. For O'Malley, I would not understand him being like, no, I want the rematch with Aljo. Of course he wouldn't. But for Merab, who's probably getting pay-per-view points at this point, if he wasn't for the Umar Nurmagomedov defense, he definitely is now. For Merab, who do you want to defend your belt against with your pay-per-view points? With your pay-per-view percentage share? Brother, let me tell I believe I want to defend against O'Malley, brother. You know this. Because that's just big money for Merab. This is the big money fight for Merab. This is the superstardom fight for Merab. If he can do it more impressively, it's going to be huge. You know, I mean, even if he just wins again, it's going to be huge. That being said, this is a very compelling rematch. Although people don't want it, and it is, you know, it's not entirely justifiable because there is star power coming into play as to why O'Malley is being treated this way. This is a very compelling rematch. And I made a horrible video at the time saying that O'Malley won. What I should have titled it is, this fight was closer than you think. Round 1 and 3 were very close rounds. And round 5, O'Malley clearly won round 5. Umar Merab was closer than you think as well. And there's arguments there. The rounds that Merab dominated O'Malley in, he never dominated Umar in any round like that. So that is where it sort of separates itself from that Umar Nurmagomedov fight level of competitiveness. Minute by minute, the Umar and Merab fight was the most competitive matchup he's had at bantamweight, other than maybe Aldo, which is really impressive for Aldo. But that was similar, you know what I mean? But in this fight, round by round, it was, you know, O'Malley can win rounds there. It can be 3-2 Merab. There's 2 swing rounds, and there's round 5 to O'Malley, which is very impressive to win a 5th round against Merab. But there's also an argument with Umar. Either way, very compelling. I am going to lean Merab. But I can so see myself doing something dumb and saying O'Malley's going to win it this time. Because someone said this in my chat, but it was right what I was thinking as well. With a guy like O'Malley, giving him another 25 minutes to try and find that shot, it's a lot for a guy like O'Malley. With low finishing potential bantamweights, I'm burping and hiccuping a bunch here. With low income, with low finishing potential bantamweights, Peter Yan, although he's a tough dude, pretty low finishing potential compared to Sean O'Malley in terms of being able to shut the lights off with a counter shot. And other guys in the division like it as well. There's not much value in giving him another 25 minutes because they're going to have to try and beat Merab by decision. O'Malley's way of success, even though he made it close by decision and lost because he got dominated in the 2nd and 4th and he lost the rounds that he needed to lose the fight. Giving him another 25, it's very, very valuable for a guy like Sean O'Malley, who's now been in there with Merab, knows he can make it competitive here and there. Even though he got taken down in rounds 2 and 4 and dominated in those rounds, in rounds 1 and 3, he knows he can spend enough time on the feet to go out there and land some of those shots. You know, he landed a big knee up the middle in round 3. If you give him another 25, it does get interesting. So if he does get completely disrespected by the odds, there will be value on O'Malley, but I've got to lean Merab, man. He's on a generational run. I think he's the bantamweight GOAT, and if he beats O'Malley, there'll be no discussion. He is. You know what I mean? And he already is, in my opinion. There's already no discussion. His resume is insane over his past 5 fights. O'Malley, Umar Nurmagomedov, O'Malley, Peter Yan. Or Henry Cejudo. Peter Yan, Jose Aldo. In his last 5. Umar, O'Malley, Cejudo, Yan, Aldo. Those are legendary wins historically for the bantamweight division. I really think they are. So I think he's the bantamweight GOAT, and he will solidify his legacy if he gets this win over O'Malley in a rematch. In the meantime, I guess we're seeing Peter Yan versus Umar Nurmagomedov as the main event of UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi. We've also got Pena versus Harrison. It's Pena versus Harrison. You know what I mean? We knew it was going to happen. It's on this card. I'm going to go with Harrison winning. I think Pena's dog shit. But Harrison does look bad in some fights, you know, against, I believe, Irene Aldana, I think it was, or was it Ketlin Vieira? There were moments where she looked very bad on the feet, like when she doesn't get her own way in the grappling, and Pena does have a decent jiu-jitsu base to fend off someone who does want to sort of ragdoll and destroy her in the grappling department. If she doesn't get her own way in the grappling, maybe Pena could make this competitive on the feet. She's been here before, 5-round main events. I know Harrison has elsewhere, but Pena's been in there with Nunes for 5, so a little bit different in terms of experience. I will go for Kayla Harrison, no. Look at the delts and tries. It's just different. It's just different, isn't it? The forearms, the neck. It's just different. You know, very different from Pena. Although the jaws and the face are both quite HGH-y. So, I don't know. I'm going to have to go with the physicality of Kayla Harrison. I think that sort of dude build is just the dominant factor in a lot of women's fights. And I think they're about as technical as each other. So, yeah. Either way, we move on. Volkov Almeida. I could cover that at the end. I want to go through some other matchups that I would put on the 316 card. That I would make it better with. Okay? So I believe I don't think we're adding any other title fights onto this card. So we need 3 contender matchups. Now, we've got a light heavyweight matchup that needs to be made because Khalil Roundtree has now lost his opponent in Jamal Hill, I believe. They may keep him on the card and find him a replacement. But in my opinion, what they should do now that they've got a great main event in Iangarry versus Carlos Prates is cut their losses and instead shift Khalil Roundtree onto this pay-per-view card against an Alexander Rakic. That's something that I want to see happen in the light heavyweight division. So that'd be number 6, Rakic versus number 7, Khalil Roundtree Jr. That's a matchup I'd like to see. In the rest of these divisions, I'm looking at a featherweight matchup. I think this makes complete sense for the card. Merab's on the card. O'Malley's on the card. I think that what makes complete sense is Arnold Allen versus Aljamain Sterling. June, pay-per-view, main card. Aljamain Sterling on the same card as Merab. You can have the duo on fight week. I'm sure that would help out Serra Longo to have both of their guys fighting on the same card. Space them out. Maybe have Arnold Allen versus Aljamain Sterling as the 4th fight down on the pay-per-view. Not the main card opener, because it could be kind of stale. Who knows? Aljo. 4th fight down on the pay-per-view. Then the main event will be O'Malley versus Merab. That'll give Serra Longo team enough time to recalibrate after the Aljamain Sterling fight before they go into the Merab fight. You don't want them together or even one fight removed from each other. So give them 2 fights in between. Put that on the 4th fight on the card. And what else could you do in terms of matchups? Yan Umar is going to be, in my opinion, in July, Abu Dhabi Fight Night main event, which has been announced. I think it just makes ultimate sense to do that there. You could look to middleweight, and you could look to get Baralho on the card. That could be good. You could get Baralho on the card against a Whittaker. I don't know if Whittaker's going to be ready for that, but you could do an Imavov Baralho on that card. People say, they shouldn't do Imavov Baralho. They should do Imavov Strickland 2 and Baralho versus Whittaker and get the old guard out for the new guard of contenders. I understand that as well. There's also an option for Marvin Vettori, Brendan Allen. There's some spice on that fight. They fought each other at a casino in a fist fight not that long ago. Brendan Allen kind of just put hands on Vettori, and Vettori ate him up like his mama's spaghetti. Mamma mia. Either way, at welterweight, not at welterweight, a matchup that I think would be good for Sean O'Malley's audience to view. O'Malley's fan base is going to be tuning in, which is the casual fan base of MMA. This is the people that think Logan Paul is cool. You know what I mean? Like, this is this, or, the Nelk boys. I wonder if Steiny is going to be in the crowd. This is who we're talking about. You know what I mean? They're Bradley Martin Raw Talk podcast listeners. Okay? I know all of these things because I'm not that old yet, but this is the demographic we're talking about here. Okay? Drewski's hilarious. You know what I mean? These guys. That's the O'Malley audience. I think they got to see a fighting nerd. And the fighting nerd I think they got to see is Mauricio Huffy. After his wheel kick against Bobby Green, he can stay active, and I think he's got to be on that card. On the main card versus whoever. Renato Moicano, I think would sell the hell out of that fight. And I think that'd be a big spotlight for Moicano to be in. Beneil Dariush was the call out that Mauricio Huffy made. I think that'd be a sick matchup to put on that card. But anything they can do, I think would work. There's a lot of bigger matchups I think they should save for International Fight Week. But that would be a really good way of making a really fun card while also keeping enough big matchups to be put elsewhere. You could also try and get Covington on there. Well, no, he's not going to be on the same card as iangarry, is he? So there's no value in really. But I mean, Covington on a card would be good, but I really want him to be at the same card as iangarry. But they're at a fight night now, so it is what it is. So that's what I would do. I would put Khalil Roundtree versus Alexander Rakic on the card, maybe to open up the main card. I think Khalil would make that a fun fight regardless. Then I'd have Aljamain Sterling versus Arnold Allen. And then I would have, where's my fucking webcam? Is it over the top of anything? Yeah. Then I would have Aljamain Sterling versus Arnold Allen on the main card, 4th fight position. And the feature fight, I'd give it to like Huffy versus Moicano. That way you save a lot of big matchups for July and August to put on the Aspinall Jones potential card and the Ilya's next matchup potential card to make those blockbuster like a Dan Hooker, Max Holloway, or, you know, Gaethje, Arman Sarukian, Topuria Oliveira for a title shot. That's when you save those and you still make it a really fun card regardless. So I'd put Huffy Moicano in the feature fight. I think that'd be really good. I think Moicano would sell it. And I think Huffy would get a chance on a big stage spotlight with the right demographic to really get onto the hype train of him to put on a generational performance. Or Moicano could destroy the hype and be right back there with the hype of his own momentum back towards a title shot. Plus, people know Moicano more than ever because he has a bunch of viral quotes and post-fight Octagon interviews, and he just fought Makhachev on a day's notice, so it's a known person, you know? So that's what I would do. Other than that, we've got Volkov versus Almeida. I left a comment on it. Dana White, yeah, we got something to do right by Volkov coming up. We're going to make this all right by him. After the Gane robbery, drops Almeida on him. Saving Gane from bad matchups yet again. Sign me up for Gane Pavlovich, though. That might as well be a fight announcement of Gane Pavlovich. Might as well be. They're probably going to do a UFC September card in Paris. I can so see them doing Pavlovich versus Gane as the main event. Most likely is going to be what's going to happen. I actually think Volkov wins this. I know Aspinall shot that great entry takedown on him twice. I don't think Almeida's got the same fast twitch. Wait for you to miss a shot and then get the entry takedown. Volkov is very good at stuffing desperate double legs. And I'm not saying that Almeida always has desperate double legs, but I saw Derek Lewis shuck off a couple of his takedowns. Sergey Spivak, he's a great fighter. I'd love to fight him. Either way, I saw Sergey Spivak shuck off a couple of his attempts. End up on top. If he gets left on the feet with Volkov, there's problems. This might be the main event. I don't think it will be. UFC Atlanta, I don't know if this is going to relate to the Atlanta. If I had to pick a fight that would really sell out an Atlanta card as a main event, I'd do Usman versus Buckley. Or Buckley. I'm not saying that. You know what I mean. That's the demographic, guys. I think Buckley in a main event in Atlanta is what they should do for 5 rounds. Whoever they want to put him against, Shavkat, someone else in the division, Usman even, that could be saved for a pay-per-view, don't get me wrong, so maybe not. But I don't see Volkov Almeida being the big main event to relate to the audience of Atlanta. You know what I mean? So, we'll see how it goes. But I'd say Volkov Almeida, it's alright. It's a good matchup. I like the matchup. I might go Volkov here. This is actually a tricky matchup for Almeida. I think this is trickier than Gane for Almeida. Volkov has been in this game for a long time and he's been improving his grappling a lot. He's been improving his grappling. His survivability on the ground is really good. If Almeida does to Volkov what he's been doing to others, I'll be shocked and very impressed. So this is a big test for Jailton Almeida and a big matchup for him as well. And I guess this does confirm Pavlovich versus Gane. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. One more time, you've got to give credit to Iangarry for taking the fight against Carlos Prates. Huge matchup. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.